Hi everyone, Luke here, and welcome back to ThursDev. So it's been a few weeks since Overwatch came out, and I think that many of us can agree at this point that it's a pretty damn fantastic game. I'll admit a fair bit of healthy skepticism on my own part when I heard that Blizzard was getting into the FPS game, but I'm happy to own the fact that my skepticism was for the most part unfounded. Everyone's favorite RTS pioneer seems to have the Midas touch when it comes to venturing into new genres. They did it with strategy, they did it with the MMO, they showed the MOBA market why MOBAs were based on the work they did through some solid innovation, and now they've taken on Team Fortress 2 and did it grandly. The hive mind of the internet is swarming on Overwatch. Game sites and forums have plenty to say about the game, and with good reason. It's not just a well-made game, but it's a game that, though not entirely without its flaws, is still less flawed than many of its peers. And when one considers how many things it has objectively done right, it's no surprise that it's as popular as it is. But what exactly is it that Overwatch does that makes it so uniquely compelling when so many other games in the genre fail, or at least fail to make the kind of impression that it has? Is it because it's Blizzard and brand loyalty is so powerful? Well, maybe that factors in a tiny bit, but there's so much going on under the proverbial hood. Just the analysis of Overwatch as a product, including the parts surrounding it, is worth doing. Allow the designer in me to be the first to take the podium and let me describe the game in terms of genre, so that we all have a frame of reference. If you've not been following the game or for whatever reason have been actively avoiding it, you may well be unsure of exactly what Overwatch is. Well, put simply, it's Team Fortress 2, plus a little extra. Overwatch is a class-based, two-team competitive FPS. It's a game where you and a group of up to 5 other people, or bots if you prefer to play solo in a multiplayer-only game, compete in small arenas over objectives. There are 21 characters to choose from, divided mostly evenly into 4 major roles: offense, defense, tank, and support. And as of launch, the game supports about 3.5 game modes, which it switches out on rotation. In each of the game modes, victory is determined by the completion of team objectives, ostensibly where both teams are forced to clash in a centralized location, be it a static area of the map, a control point that players must capture while fending off the opposing team, or a mobile point, the payload, that must be escorted forward by one team and halted by the other. The central concept of all of the game modes is battle royale in a controlled space. You fight, die, respawn, and continually travel inward to the point, and ideally make use of the unique properties of your character and that of your teammates in achieving your objectives and ultimately victory. Unlike a lot of games in the competitive first-person shooter genre, the class-based team shooter has the unique distinction of almost explicitly requiring that each player work within the team, with varied character roles all represented in order to win a match. An entire match could be won with every character choosing one role, but the balanced team, especially the balanced team whose members recognize and properly execute upon their role within the dynamic of the team, is designed to be the one that wins. The most prominent and famed example of the class-based team shooter is Team Fortress 2. It even has the team in the name. Most PC gamers with even a passing interest in the multiplayer shooter should probably be at least familiar with the game, if not have experience playing it. It's free to play through Steam, and even 9 years after its release, still has an active player base. And the player base is the ticket in a game like this. You live or die by your player base. If not enough people are active in your game, the entire thing will collapse in on itself. And this is why, despite the wealth of other games in the class-based team shooter genre, very few have managed to have the impact that Overwatch has. Games like Monday Night Combat, Natural Selection 2, Lead and Gold, Tribes Ascend, and Global Agenda have had their moments in the sun, but eventually all petered out through either lack of players or lack of developer support. There's no guarantee that Overwatch won't as well, but it already has gained far more interest in such a short period of time than any of the other games I just mentioned, and shows little sign of losing momentum, provided it continues to forge onward with regular updates. What distinguishes Overwatch from the competition in my mind are a few things. I'll tackle them from 2 angles: in-game factors and external factors. In-game, Overwatch does a fantastic job of offering at least one character for really any given player archetype. some of which being largely previously unexplored in the genre. Through creating a uniquely unbalanced set of rules for each character, the game achieves a strange equilibrium. Each character has an iron triangle of mobility, efficacy, and survivability on varied levels of magnitude. Characters like Pharah, Widowmaker, and Reaper have the ability to easily traverse the map thanks to their mobility skills, but none survive overly easily in a fight, while characters like Reinhardt, Roadhog, and Zarya are all lacking in mobility and gross damage output, but have uniquely useful ways to improve the survivability of themselves and others within their team. These concepts are by no means unique to Overwatch. They've been explored and re-explored many times over by many games, but where most games would create a single character to fill each role to perfection, Overwatch instead purposely creates flawed versions of each archetype and gives the players the option to find a character that makes the most sense for their own playstyle and most sense in context of what's going on in the game. Take the game's healers, for example. While Team Fortress 2 gives the player the base medic with their healing gun, needle gun, and bone saw, Overwatch has 3 characters that play drastically differently from one another. For those that prefer the classic beam healer, Mercy's healing is extremely effective and has the added benefit of being able to on-the-fly switch to a beam that functions like a less powerful version of the TF2 medic's Kritzkrieg, and her ultimate ability allows her to resurrect recently killed teammates. She's able to move easily around the battlefield by flying directly to any hero she can see within a certain range, but her damage output is on the low end of abysmal. The second healer is Lucio, who has the benefit of a constant area of effect healing power. It's significantly lower than Mercy's, but it affects everyone nearby and can be regularly pumped up for increased efficacy. This can also be switched out for a speed effect, which increases the movement speed of any characters nearby, making him extremely useful in situations where a group needs to make a rapid advance, or to get multiple recently killed characters back into the fight as soon as possible. He's highly mobile, able to skate along walls, has a passable damage output, and can push enemies back with his alt-fire attack. His ultimate increases his entire team's survivability by giving them shields for a limited period of time. And the third is Zenyatta, the combat medic of the 3. His mobility is far less impressive than that of the other 2, but he makes up for it in being the most viable long-range combatant, with the ability to heal a teammate at range while still actively attacking himself. He's able to compromise an opponent's defenses as well, and when he uses his ultimate, he both becomes invincible and heals multiple teammates in an area of effect. None of the 3 characters play similarly at all, though they're each a viable choice for the team's invaluable healer slot. Depending on the game mode, composition of the enemy team, and needs of the team as a whole, each can be better or worse. No one healer is the best of the 3, and each is flawed in just such a way as to counterbalance their benefits. This theme is present throughout the game, a well-crafted unbalance where each character has major flaws that are counterbalanced by the rest of the team. Bastion can do immense damage at medium range, but has to be immobile and therefore vulnerable to do so. An attentive Reinhardt can counteract his vulnerability by shielding him with his massive barrier field. The barrier field, however, can be counteracted by Symmetra's charged photon projector, a few well-placed rockets from Pharah, or a Riptire, or perhaps a handful of ricocheting frag grenades from Junkrat. To each character's rock, there's another character's paper, to which there are scissors, and in all of these scenarios, a counter also exists. The game is a fast-paced game of chess where each character is given a chance to shine, and the game rewards team play and short-term achievements. Its system of rewards is also well implemented, in the form of a play of the game displayed at the end of every match set, where an impressive play is displayed to everyone in the game after the match is ended, after which 4 high-performing players are presented, and everyone's given the opportunity to vote for themselves who deserves kudos for a job well done. The play of the game and these votes mean absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things, but are a very simple way to make the player feel like they've accomplished something. Every time they reach an epic 5 votes or that elusive legendary 10 votes, it's a great feeling, and good feelings need to be in plentiful supply in a game where every 5 to 10 minutes, half of the participants are losing. Unfortunately, perhaps the game's actual tangible rewards are disappointing on a good day, as most loot boxes, gained from every player level, contain mostly inconsequential sprays for characters you most likely don't care about, or palette swaps of the character's base skins. Blizzard is attempting to monetize its loot boxes, so it behooves them to fill it mostly with garbage to incentivize the casual player to spend money on extra loot boxes in the hope that they might possibly get something they want, but disappointment is the name of the game, as with anything random. What, however, of external factors? The game itself is certainly a great experience, and once the player is sucked in already, it easily sinks its talons into you. But something must be driving the interest in the game that other publishers haven't managed to grab a hold of to get so many people playing the game so early on. Of course, Blizzard is one of the foremost conductors of the hype train. It would be silly to assume that industry veterans with the budget that Blizzard had wouldn't be able to get a bug in people's ear about Overwatch, but advertising dollars alone do not great PR make. What Overwatch has is world building. Famously in the early 1990s during the development of Doom, id Software's lead programmer John Carmack likened plot in a video game to plot in a porno. Expected but meaningless. Overwatch, instead, has created an extremely rich tapestry in its story, but presents itself in the way that Dark Souls so famously and adeptly does, tangentially. The game itself deals with story at best in tiny snippets of conversation between characters before a match, but the environment tells the story each time the player enters an area. If the action weren't such an immediate concern at all times, the player would notice a wealth of allusions to deep story involving the many characters in the game. Where it diverges, in this sense, is in its deluge of media outside the game. Animated shorts exploring the past of the various characters, comic books, character spotlights that focus on not the game itself, but in establishing a world to become invested in. The characters are extremely varied as well. I doubt that many would cite this as a primary reason for their interest in the game. Most likely it wouldn't even make it into the top 3, but I can guarantee you that someone who plays the game enough knows a few characters whose personalities and characterization they like and dislike. The game has characters as myriad as the Rogues Gallery in the Batman comics. And having a character we can like, and characters we're annoyed by even, are just that many more ways to get people invested in the characters. With Blizzard's animation studio also finally getting the opportunity to really flex their muscles, I wouldn't be surprised if we might even hear of a feature-length animated Overwatch movie in the not-so-distant future. And invested in these characters people really are. Long before most people even had any exposure to the actual gameplay, people could already identify Tracer, Widowmaker, and Winston at the very least. Perhaps Blizzard did even a little too well, since the most adult corner of the fandom was, pursuant to Rule 34 of the internet, producing porn of the game before it even hit the shelves. So much porn, in fact, that Blizzard has issued a number of takedown orders to date, attempting to curb the tide, unsuccessfully of course, though it's perhaps understandable as they're attempting to create an, if not family-friendly, at least accessible franchise through Overwatch. But the attention is good for them, pornographic or not. It means that people care about the game. Overwatch has become a small cultural phenomenon, and with Blizzard's heavy focus on esports, it'll likely continue to penetrate as it moves away from casual Twitch streams to full-fledged competitive league play, and it's already showing as a coming soon to the game's play menu. Overwatch has a virality to it. It feels so unbalanced in classic Blizzard fashion, yet everyone gets a chance to win if they can figure out what they're supposed to do. Anyone with even passing interest in the FPS genre will find a character that they enjoy, and the games are fast-paced and non-frustrating. The game is easy to pick up and play for anyone. Overwatch has become the water cooler topic in my own office, discussing strategy, characters we find frustrating to play as or against, even talking about our mutual disdain for the quality of the loot in our loot boxes. The last time we collectively became this excited was when we started all playing Heroes of the Storm together. Damn you, Blizzard. Could anyone bottle lightning like Blizzard has? Perhaps not. Knowing why something is successful and being able to replicate that success are two very different things, but at the least trying to understand how a game can get into the public consciousness the way that Overwatch has is a valuable exercise. Will the game last? I honestly can't say, but with the number of active players, Blizzard's advertising machine in full swing, and the fact that it's just a damn good game, I can't see it going anywhere anytime soon. And that's it for me today. I hope that you enjoyed the show today, and I'm always grateful for having you guys drop by. If you'd like to hear a little bit more on our thoughts on Overwatch as a media empire, stay tuned for an upcoming episode of Serious Sunday, where John and I will be discussing. But until then, if you need me, I'll be marching the payload up the road at Volskaya. Thanks for coming, and take care.